Hi everyone. The heat is hot. Apparently it's July now. It's been a warm morning in the shop and I have this afternoon to go yet, so it's killing me here. Anyway, something that I always think is kind of rude is when people drive down our driveway and they'll drive past the shop and come to the house and just stand there ringing the doorbell like an idiot. We live on an acreage and the shop and the house are only separated by about 140 feet. Sign for the shop is at the end of the road. You come down our long driveway, you drive past the shop, I got both bay doors wide open. It's pretty obvious that I'm working in the shop. And a person will slow down by the shop and look over, look right at me, and then drive over to the house. And then walk up the steps and ring the doorbell. I hammer on the bench a couple of times to sort of say, hey, I'm in here. And she'll come to the shop. She'll realize that the lady of the house is not home, and she'll probably come over to the shop. And I looked out the window and I see her in a dress, so I knew it was a Jehovah's Witness right away. And then they drove away, which I think is kind of rude. You know, it's a business here, but it's still a private residence. And to sort of drive into someone's private residence and then ignore that person seems kind of rude. I understand she probably thought she was going to interrupt me if I was in the shop working, but she left me a leaflet. A world government. Why do we need one? Is it possible? Who is qualified to rule? I thought that's interesting. There's a public event they're going to be holding, and I can't attend. It's too far away from here. I've done these before when they're a little closer. I'll go to a Christian or a Jehovah's Witness event to sort of see what they're talking about, you know, if I got time. Earth's new ruler. Who really qualifies? And they talk about Matthew 6, chapter 6, verse 33. I'm not familiar with that verse, so if anyone wants to enlighten me, feel free. Keeping God's first kingdom based on Jesus' words. I find this a little bit interesting. They're carefully choosing their words, it seems to me here, and I don't know if there's some interplay between like Christians and Jehovah's Witnesses about a one world government, because they say a world government. I mean, obviously, to put one in there would just be redundant. That's what we're talking about here. And I would think, who would be qualified to rule? Well, based on Christianity, I would think a one world government, the only person that would be qualified to rule would be a holy person, not a man. This is interesting to me on several fronts. Obviously that, and I would actually ask any Christians out there if there's any notion amongst you that the Jehovah's Witnesses would actually worship the Antichrist as a leader of a one world government. I find it ludicrous also on another front, and that is that I'm actually a closet anarchist. Now, before everybody loses their shit, because that's usually what happens when someone says that they are an anti-statist, I say closet because I'm pretty harmless in that I know that humanity is not ready for a stateless society. It'll never happen in probably several tens of lifetimes, if not hundreds. So I don't offer any challenge to your paradigm, so it's okay. I just believe that, of course, the state as it exists in our current form represents a violation of first principles of non-initiation of the use of force and coercion and that sort of thing. It's primarily theoretical for me. Again, I understand, I pay my taxes, I do my thing, I operate within the framework because I understand that we're just not ready for it. And I think if it ever does happen, where we shed the state, it will happen naturally. It will just happen. However, that aside, I think what even statists would have to admit is that it's absolutely ludicrous to imagine a one world government, Earth's new ruler, who really qualifies. One person, even a small committee of people, somehow sort of being in control of 7 billion or more. I mean, all you have to do is look around you at any state society, state-run society, and see how terribly they're run, with all of the corruption and scandals and misuse of funds, misappropriation of funds, the waste, the absolute waste. I mean, if you want to run a business into a ground, let the government take it over. And to think that the entire planet could be ruled by Earth's new ruler. is kind of ludicrous. It's ludicrous to me on several fronts. Again, I'm an atheist, so to imagine any sort of a theocracy run by one, I don't know, pope or whatever you'd want to call this ruler, is ludicrous. And then just politically, the concept of one ruler for an entire, or even a small committee, trying to micromanage or micro and macro manage the planet's populations is just ridiculous to me. And I can see, an even further draining away of individual liberty if something like that were to happen. But commentary aside, what I'd really like to know is the question I asked earlier in the video about the Jehovah's Witnesses talking about a world government, essentially a one world government, and how that fits in with Revelation, Bible prophecy about sort of the end times and the Antichrist, because it seems to me that they're almost painting a picture of that. They're not talking about a holy ruler there. They're talking about who really qualifies, and that can only mean we're talking about a man or woman, of course, but a human being. So I find that interesting. I'm going to try to cool down before the afternoon here because I got a lot of work to do yet, and it's going to be a hot afternoon. So I thank you in advance for any comments that you might leave in response to my questions. Thanks as always for watching.